Welcome back for the afternoon session. We packed a lot in this morning. We've got less time, but just as much to pack in this afternoon. And obviously, people will be on trains, so there'll be a certain amount of shuffling in seats. So we're going to keep the tempo high. We're going to hear some more feedback from TTF working groups. Then we're going to have a moment of reality check to hear about what the kind of wider world out there is doing in this city, which I think is going to be a lot of food for thought. So, without further ado, I'm handing over to Andy again, who's going to use his prop.
Thank you very much. So this is the update of the Spatula working group. So before we go too far, we're going to have a slight change of what Spatula does. So I'd like you to pay maximum attention here. The reason that we called it Spatula was because it came up with a good name. And in order to do that, we had signal, phase, and timing in it. But now the group previously known as UTMC has got the band back together. The Blues Brothers are in the room. What we'd like to do is to pass on the spat and map bit of Spatula to Steve and his team. So where are you, Mark and Steve? So there are. Here's the golden spatula. So for those of you who are into traffic signals, if you have any queries about all the detailed plumbing of Gloucester, it's now gone to them, because we're going to focus on the connectivity of services and what users see, to data to and from vehicles, and what end users see. But like many good things, it's such a good name, we're going to keep it. Hello, Darren. Are you going to be my spatula delivery? Thank you very much. Thank you. There you go. So we're going to have a quick little update from various of the people who you'd have seen their stuff in the videos, starting with George from KL. So George, if you could come up.
Thanks, Andy. Thank you. Right. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is just tell you a little bit more about two of the demonstrations we did at Millbrook. And the mobile traffic light Gloucester demo and the emergency vehicle approaching demonstration. So mobile traffic light Gloucester. How did it came that we were doing that? Well, earlier in the year, I'd been working with SRL to integrate a mobile VMS as part of an earlier demonstration we did. And I was talking to them in the summer about that, and I saw all these traffic lights, and I thought, why not integrate mobile traffic lights to do Gloucester? And so we did. And so how it works is SRL basically put a little bit of electronics in their mobile traffic light, which didn't affect the traffic light. It just picked up the status of the light and pushed it up to the cloud, to a cloud data ingestion. From there, it goes into the hub, into my data hub. Now that's taking data from all sorts of things, VMSs, all manner of objects, and projecting it into the car. So how do we set it up? Well, we just rolled up a mobile VMS and just planted it down and turned it on. And then it starts transmitting all its status up to the cloud, and the car knows about it, and when the car approaches it, it can do Gloucester. How is this different to normal Gloucester? Well, it was a demo on a small bit of track. We couldn't really do what you would do with normal public Gloucester. I maybe have a long approach into the intersection. So what we did was we changed the minimum speed in Gloucester down to 5 miles an hour. Now that was great for that, and it also lines up really with an area we were thinking about in using mobile traffic lights for industrial applications, where you're off-road and you're not on a public road at all. And what that means is at 5 miles an hour, you'll always get a green. You're able to vary the speed from 30 to 5 and you'll always get a green. And in the demo there, if you were there at Millbrook, sometimes you'll have come around the corner and the vehicle would have given you an optimal speed of 6 miles an hour or 5 miles an hour, and then you crawl along to the lights and you get a green. You're always going to get a green, and we always did in the demo. And that was the power of it, but with a more industrial angle. Right, that was the first one. And the second one is emergency vehicle approaching. Now, this one, Darren came to me in the summer, and he said, he introduced me to Standby RSG. Standby RSG install blue light equipment in, I think, most of the emergency vehicles in the UK. And for a significant proportion of those vehicles, they also install telemetry. And that's giving live updates all the time for the emergency vehicles when the blue lights are turned on, so you can follow them. And Standby, in order to test it, Standby gave me a sample of vehicles across the whole UK. So I had police vehicles the length and the breadth of the country roaming around the network so I could work on them and test it and refine the integration. And it was really interesting to watch on there. So again, the telemetry comes from the fire engine. It goes up to Standby RSG, in this case, their cloud, and then it's a cloud-to-cloud integration with my ingestion, and then into the KLS hub and into the car. So the car knows where the fire engine is. So to do the demo, what Standby RSG did was come along to Millbrook and do a standard fit on the Millbrook fire engine, i.e. exactly what they do on any other police car or any other fire engine out there. They send their technicians along and they fit to the telemetry to the fire engine. They fire it up, and all of a sudden it's in my system. It's being tracked. I know where it is, I know how fast it's going, I know what direction it's going in. Feed that through into the cloud and into the car, and the car knows where the fire engine is. It knows it's behind the car. It knows it's heading towards the car and coming towards it. It knows what speed it's going. It can work it all out, and it can put the warning in the vehicle. Emergency vehicle approaching. So you know the vehicle is coming from behind. Great stuff. A bit more in a demo. Standby RSG have this connected to thousands of these things around the country, and potentially more as time moves on. So the data is there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much, George. So one of the projects that Spatula Group has followed for a long time is Hinkley Point Nuclear Power Station with its Gloucester trial. So I've asked Zachariah to come and give us an update on the project from National Highways.
Good afternoon. Definitely won't be 5 minutes, it'll be a lot quicker. So Graham Seaton is leading the project from National Highways with the WSP, Amy Consulting, East Point and Zircon. He sends his apologies, he's in Portugal at the moment, working, not holidaying. So progress to date, we developed and completed our feasibility and design stages. Our algorithm in fixed system is at 92%, so initially they were great starting point. Again, with our supply chain, WSP, Amy, Zircon, East Point, things are going initially at the beginning of the year going extremely well. Had some technical issues when extracting the data from traffic signals. I think a lot of you are having similar kind of issues as been talking around to quite a few people. And we are aiming for a 2023 January, February M5 junction 23 trial. I clicked the wrong one. Okay, so currently, so where we are now. Having some issues, fixed and variable, a lot of people are having a similar kind of issues. Accuracy drops down when you go from fixed to variable from about 90% to some cases 30%. We've got that back up to about 60%. So the IT boys have been working really hard to get that up. Same with the vehicles, we've been getting our phones into vehicles, our phones or IT kind of systems into there. Great connection with the team. Hopefully, site testing coming further in the year. Baseline period in January, we'll be switching the app off in January and February with this app on. But our main kind of issue at the moment is the accuracy with the algorithm in variable sections. Spoke to George a couple of months ago about that, but still trying to reach out to different kind of people to kind of help us in that kind of regard. Any questions? I'm not the technical expert, but if there's anyone in the room who could probably answer any of your questions, please send them out. All right, you know?
I think it's just worthwhile. Yeah. It's just worthwhile adding there's 70 vehicles and 160 drivers.
Yeah.
So previously when we've done Gloucester, we've had a handful of vehicles and we've got drivers. So this is large-scale stuff.
Large-scale, yeah, big time.
And I think if you could prove the benefits there from a fleet vehicle delivering concrete and stuff to Hinkley Point, then it could start to roll out much wider.
Yeah, of course, we're really at kind of like a turning point right now. The potential, everybody knows about it. Our main issue is the next few months. If you can hit the right targets, honestly, we'll be in a great position and great for everyone. We could really change the game in this.
Thank you very much. So the next slides were from one of my colleagues, Danny Willard, who can't be here, so I'm going to present them on his behalf. This is just a quick update for you on eCall. For those of you who don't know about eCall, it's that red button up there. It's been in all newly approved vehicles, car and van since 2018. We reckon about 20% of cars on the road now have eCall. The number of calls is growing at about 50% a year. There's one eCall every 4 minutes in the UK. And it can go off automatically if you have a collision and your airbags go off, and we get about 20 of those a day. So that's 20 newish vehicles that have been written off in airbags are sending data. Then data goes to 999 as a voice call. Perhaps the most scariest thing about eCall, if you didn't read page 593 of your car manual, is that if your airbags go off, the police will ring you up and ask you if you're all right, and you didn't know that was going to happen when you had your crash. The valuable bit is the eCall data. We're trying to mine that at the moment and use it for various things such as finding stranded vehicles, broken down vehicles, and collided vehicles. So we demonstrated at UTAC, you saw the Toyota Corolla. It wasn't actually crashed. The airbags were bin liners that we blew up with coat hangers like Blue Peter, but we spoofed the data and it went back into the fire engine. And what we're talking to now is the fire services and the police in particular, because they would quite like to know the vehicle that they're going to turn up to, if it's an electric vehicle, an LPG vehicle, how many people are on board and so on. If you don't know about eCall and you want to remember it, at the front desk we've got these new car smell air fresheners. You tie it to your mirror and it reminds you that the button is there. So that's enough from us about eCall. So the final speaker in our condensed session is Dave from Unix. So fire away.
Thank you, Andy. Dave Gavitas, that's better. Unix Traffic, formerly Siemens. I don't know how much longer we're going to say that. Okay, and we're just going to do a little recap here. Really is quite close. A little recap of what we've been working on this year, the results we've got, and what we're going to do next. Okay, so we went through several deployment projects, so we're busy this year. Get back here. Autoplex, which many people will have seen, that was all about automated or connected vehicle merging, sensing, distributing messages to make everything much safer. Cab Forth with the support of automated bus project, running a route up over the Forth Bridge next to Edinburgh. That's being deployed. And we're just extending the support phase for that. And a while ago, someone asked me, when are you going to be able to go on the bus? And I still can't say, but it's going to be very soon. That's pretty much what we said last time as well. Horibamara City Circuit, that's a map SPAT system, okay, connected to the traffic controllers. That's been deployed. Currently, we're introducing the RSU2X. That's the next higher performance version of the RSU. Okay, and the roadside unit is short range, but it's direct connectivity, so guaranteed. We have another automated project just about to go, and so we'll be doing MapSpat for another local authority. And in general, over the next few months, the next period, we'll be working on hybrid systems, also using 4G, RSUs, and various things like this. Okay. Okay, from our perspective, as an organization that has been working in this area for 10 years, and a shout out to Ertico, who ran the first project we got involved in back in 2012, and that was run well. That was up in Newcastle. Okay, so what we see now is a strong need for national coordination to go further, because we've all done these various demonstration projects, and now it's really time to decide what this thing is going to look like at a national level, and that includes the cybersecurity, the IT background, and real deployments, because this is where we feel we are now. So security and how that gets organized for these kinds of systems at a national level is something we need to talk about. Various details of the SPAT message and how you represent green arrows. This needs to be discussed. There's different ways of representing whether you can go. Intersection IDs, and this is going to lead into something actually. Time to change, the changes in the standards, this interaction between the Car-to-Car Consortium and C-Roads. Service provider ID, that's for signs. When you send out a sign, it's supposed to have a little identifier, and so local authorities or road organizations, they're going to need service provider IDs to make this system work, to be conformant to the standards. And finally, when it comes to the HMIs, to the applications, well, the car designers, they have whole teams on this. And when it's going to be applications running on people's phones that is going to show up in the cars, it needs to be designed as to what's permissible to show where, what type of information is acceptable to show where, based on its reliability, the update rate, the things like this, and whether it's safe to show it. So the whole sort of human factors thing to do next. And it's really quite exciting. It means now we are ready to deploy these systems, but these are the things that need to be decided. So that's the update for today from us. Unix Traffic, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This may sound very sort of detailed stuff, but it's the sort of thing where if you're driving along in your future automated car and it comes up to a signal and computer says no, it's because we didn't get it right now. That's why we're focusing on it. So just one final plug from me. Darren has got a number of us working on a project called DSys, which stands for the Digital Controller Interface Specification. For those of you who know about signals, it's basically taking the 2500 format and writing it in a computer language called JSON. As Dave said, one of the first things we're doing is working out how to number every traffic signal controller in the country in a unique way, because at the moment they're not uniquely numbered. So the self-driving car would come up and say, "What signals are you?" And it would go 1, 2, 3, 4, and there'd be 5 or 6 of those around the UK. So we need to sort that out. We'll be consulting with the signal people there. We're working closely with Mark and Steve to make sure that we consult with the signal group. And people who aren't here today are Mark Pledell, Peter Routledge, John Wade, who are working on this. So if you see any of this pop up, the reason is we're trying to work about digitising traffic signals within Spatula. One final plug from me, wearing a slightly different hat, is for many years I've been chair of the ITS UK Connected Vehicle Group. I've decided to pass on the mantle of that to Ian Pengelly from WSP. So I'm having a leaving party at Stock Signs in Redhill. Redhill is in the south of England, for those of you who've never been down there. And the title of that meeting is Who Pays? So all this connected stuff, where's the business case and whatever. And apparently we're going to the pub afterwards. So 10th of January, if you've got nothing else to do, please do come along. At which point I'm going to pass on to Devrim.
Cool. Good afternoon. My little talk is going to be about traffic signals. I'll try to explain to you the perspective from the transport planner and transport modeler point of view, and how challenging at times it can be to obtain data for traffic signals. These are the different type of tools that transport planners develop models in to be able to assess the impact of developments, to understand how the infrastructure can be modified to reduce congestion, emissions perhaps, or simply to optimize traffic signals so that they work better. So at the top, you have Linsig and transit models that they build. I estimate, I've been in the industry for about 20 years, I estimate there's thousands of those projects that look at impact of traffic on signals or optimization of signals. Then there's more detailed micro-simulation modeling, which gets used for more detailed assessments when project costs are higher, perhaps. And I estimate there's at least more than 1,000 projects a year in the UK using such modeling. And then the strategic transport models, there isn't that many of those, maybe up to 1,000 a year, individual projects, small and large, but they have to model thousands of signal junctions in one model. So these things are really data hungry. If you look at that list, easily there's thousands of projects out there in the UK that require signal data. And transport planners require signal data not only for modeling with those, there's real-time modeling that is emerging, but there's also requests for signal data for other reasons in projects as well. This is an example of a microsimulation model that is simulating the signals. So a transport planner would build such a model to test the impact perhaps of building a supermarket on the green patch on the right-hand corner and 500 additional vehicles using those junctions in the peak hour, perhaps. And they need the signal data to be able to build a base model and assess the impact of that development. These are the different types of signal data they need to be able to code the models. So for single junctions, they need the site layout. They need to know where the stop lines are, where the detectors are. They need to know sometimes where the street furniture, signal furniture is so that they can redesign the junction layout perhaps and replace those or move those somewhere else. When it's networks of junctions they're assessing, they need things like offsets, and they need to know which regions. It can get quite technical, actually. The world of traffic signals is quite big. Then there's the adaptive signals, things like move or scoot, and they may need more detailed data for those in terms of average stage lengths, average green times. There's bus priority in signals as well. There's something called bus gating as well, or queue relocation strategies, which means signals are behaving adaptively depending on arrival and departure of buses. So it can get really complex. And to build a good model, to make a good assessment, you need this data. But what happens? Dare I say, in most cases, you're lucky to get a PDF with some numbers on it. If we have 100 public highway authorities in the UK, yeah, some of them are really good. They have standardized the data for their regions. But there's a big, it really varies, the quality and the reliability of the data that you get. So if you're lucky, you get a nice PDF with all the data you need on it, or part of the data. If you're luckier, you get an Excel table or CSV file. Some give you the controller manual. Sometimes it's in the cabinet. I've heard authorities telling you the cabinet's there. Be my guest. Some give it in a digitized format. Some give site layout drawings, some others don't. So as a transport planner, you need to go on site and measure it yourself. Scoot and mover messages. Some have APIs, UTC APIs, or they've built APIs of their own, which you need to tap into. But as a transport planner, yeah, it's not really that easy to look at an API unless you're a programmer. So, as I said, the reliability varies quite a lot. The data requires a lot of extensive and manual processing by the transport planners, which takes a lot of time in building that base model. It can sometimes compromise the quality of the base model as well. If the data is not enough, the transport planner has to make assumptions. Yeah, a lot of energy is invested into it. It can be very frustrating. There are some people in the room that are fully aware of that. And there is a lack of innovation. I mean, signals have been in our lives for many decades, but we haven't really built a proper database of where they are, how they work. I don't know if any of you know how many signal junctions we have in the UK, or perhaps in the regions where you live in. I don't know. So my last slide, how can we improve? Yeah, UTC systems are really good. There's a lot of documentation that come with UTC systems, but they're not all standard. Each authority can have a different way of presenting the data or collecting the data. APIs are helpful. We have a project, for example, in York, where we built a real-time model and we connected to the signal data live, which is great. We pick up the signal timings from the last cycle and we use it in the model, so we have really current data. But if you wanted to build an offline model, it's not really something you can easily access. It requires certain technical knowledge. How can we do it? The hardware and software suppliers have to work together. There's different suppliers in the country. They all have their own systems. And the authorities have to support as well. But perhaps there needs to be a higher power that needs to motivate the industry to standardize all this, or perhaps a collaboration project of some sort. But to be honest, I think transport planners will be happy to get some sort of a standard format on a PDF even, if not Excel or API, or this amazing national traffic signal database, if we can achieve it. So I thought I'd talk about this and share my thoughts with you, and maybe there's something interesting there, because the volume of demand for signal data is so high that maybe we need to do something about it, and it'll help thousands of people. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As a non-specialist, I always get very excited about traffic signals, and I don't know why. I think it's because they're so fundamental. So there's some really interesting challenges there, so hopefully food for thought. And if you have any response to any of that, think about it in the context of the feedback forms on your tables. Right, we're moving on to the last segment, I think. Darren's given me a funny look, but because I'm about to hand over to him, so hopefully he's expecting this. So Darren and Louise are going to come and talk to us about traffic signals, which I've already admitted I love.
Well, it's not actually Darren and Louise, it's Louise, because all I'm going to do is introduce Louise.
Thanks, Darren.
Done.
Just to find my slides. There we go. Can you hear me? Oh, it's quite loud. So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Louise Hewlett. I'm the traffic signal team lead at Kirklees Council, for those of you who don't know me. And Darren's asked me to come along and talk about how we're spending our traffic signal maintenance award. Some of you might not know where Kirklees is, so I'll help you out there. We're sort of nestled just underneath the M62, just to the side of the M1. Just over the hill, on the sunny side of the hill, although not that sunny this morning. We've got a population approaching 450,000, and there's just another little plan there showing us in context with our West Yorkshire neighbours and the wider Leeds City region. So the assets that we manage. We've got 134 signal control junctions, 97 signal control crossings, 2 wigwags, 17 VMS, 115 Bluetooth journey time detectors, and 7 pollution monitors. So we put them all together, you can see there's quite a heavy bias towards the north of the region, and we've got quite a rural area to the south. In terms of the funding that we normally receive, annually we get £100,000 council capital, which is generally put towards failing equipment, poles that are falling down, controls that have died, etc. And for the past few years, we've got £340,000 from LTP3 for everything else. We put together an application for £440,000 for the maintenance fund, and we got a partial award of 250, which, as you can tell, is still a significant improvement over our normal budget. So with that revised budget, we revised the scope of what we were going to do. We'd been going to do some work with air quality monitors. We've had to park that for now, and we were going to crack on with some Wi-Fi upgrades, but we've had to park them for now as well. So we're concentrating on a further collaboration with the University of Huddersfield and Simplify Systems on an AI project that we've been working on, and then just swapping out 15 or so obsolete controllers that we've got. One of my colleagues was going to be here today to talk about the AI project that we're doing, but unfortunately he couldn't make it either. But Keith from Simplify Systems sat over there. I'm sure he would be very happy to answer any of your questions, because I'm probably not the best person to. So we've got an existing collaboration with the University of Huddersfield and Simplify Systems, and we've been working on a scheme along the A629 Wakefield Road, which you can see on the screen, sort of coming from the bottom of the screen, bending up to the town centre in Huddersfield. So continuing this, let me just explain the name. We finally settled on a name and called it Aspect, which stands for AI Signal Project Improving Environment, Corridors and Traffic. But we thought the aspect fitted quite nicely with the traffic signals part of it. So the objectives that we had from this part of the project was delivering enhanced capability for our assets by using analytics, wider deployment of the monitoring, analytics and intelligence systems that we've already started in this existing collaboration. And to do that, we were going to create a data lake, visualize the data, create a simulator, and then deploy it to the network. So our desired outcomes are a prediction tool, a database, an analytical tool, a tool for managing planned events. So in Huddersfield, we've got the John Smith Stadium, home to the Mighty Terriers. I'm a season ticket holder, so I had to put their logo in there. But we want to come up with a way to try and manage the traffic exiting those events and the other events that they have there, but obviously none of them are as good as Huddersfield games, although perhaps not this season. And then a tool for managing unplanned events as well, such as that one. That is one of ours. That's not just a stock photo. You'll notice there that traffic signal head should not be hanging down there. And the last desired outcome is the AI model representation. At the minute, we've got a pretty simple system. We take data from out on street, goes in, and we get outputs to the VMS, the traffic signals, and the parking guidance system. But there's a lot more that we could be, information we could be using, such as weather data, bus open data, cycle demand data, roadworks information, planned or emergency. But it'd take somebody too long to have to manually deal with all that and come out with the best signal plans that you can. We just can't do it. That's an indication of the dashboards from all of those various things. It's not a job for just one person to sit there and do. So that's where the AI comes in. And I'm sorry, Keith, that is a huge oversimplification of what happens. But basically, the AI does all that for us and can then spit out much better information than we could just have one person doing. So how are we getting on with this? The start of it was delayed by 3 months to January of this year, mainly due to procurement issues of kind of getting Keith on board again and dealing with our procurement team. We've had some other delays caused by various technical issues, as you'd expect, trying to get data from lots of different sources. And that's led to some delays on the initial data ingress, operational reviews, automation of the modelling, and finally the deployment to site. But we are getting there. Phase 1 was all to do with the scoping and the data ingress. The benefits that we've got out of that is that the data has been transformed into a usable format, And we've been able to visualise some of the real-time data that we had that was sort of a little bit hidden before. So that's been good. The second phase was the bulk updates and the operational reviews. We're pretty much there with that. There's just a little bit of automation still needed for some of the data streams. And the benefits that we've got from that is it's highlighted some of the errors in the data, which actually translates to errors that we've got out on street, faulty detectors, things like that. Some of them we knew about. There were ones where we knew loops were down, but there was no point recutting them because the road surface was falling to bits, and we knew there was a surfacing scheme coming through. It did, however, highlight a site where we had no idea that some other part of the council had reversed part of a one-way system, and the approach to that arm of the junction was actually completely different to when we'd put it in. So it's been good to highlight the differences. The phase 3 is the modelling and the use of the AI. That's, again, substantially complete. We've just got this deployment out onto site. That's our next step, which is the bit that I'm really excited about. And the benefits that we've got with the technique and the methodology have been refined, and we're ready to go. And Darren's going to find out all about this next week because he's coming up to see us, and we're going to dazzle you with wonderful things. The next steps then, as I've mentioned, it's to create the link to push this data back out to site and get it working on site, and I'm really, really excited for that. Using the tool for the planned events, I had to sneak the town logo in again, and then expand the network coverage to more than just the Wakefield Road corridor. We've got other corridors in mind, and eventually expand it as far as we can. So it'll be really good to build on the success that we've had so far and just expand it. So the second part of what we're spending the money on is the updating the controllers. So we, as of March last year, I think it was, we had 232 traffic signal installations. 32 of those were greater than 15 years old. That's a picture of a pole we replaced this summer. We had been having some issues with some controllers going off in the heat, and I did try to spin that. We were trying to get a bit more ventilation in, but it turned out it was probably best that we just replaced it. We also had a further 8 controllers that were less than 15 years old, but were obsolete, by which I mean they were TRXs or Sentinels. We initially identified 20 sites that we would like to replace, and by replace, we were generally meaning literally unbolt the old controller, put a new one on. So replace a TRX with a PTC1, replace a Sentinel with an Optima, just to try and keep down costs, not have to get civils involved, just pop them straight back on the same base. We did drop 3 sites because some other schemes came along, some corridor schemes from other areas of the council. Do you know what? They can pay for it. We'll use our money elsewhere. And another further site has crept into another scheme that is happening. So that's taking care of that one as well. We identified risks for delivering our programme. The first one was the confirmation of the funds and when we would find out about that. We then had the slight complication that our finance department didn't speak to us about it when the money appeared, and they tried to give it back. So that helped. We had supplier constraints. There was us, but all the other West Yorkshire authorities applied for money as well. There was only us and Leeds who were successful, but at the time we didn't know, and we all used the same suppliers. We needed to make sure that they'd be able to deliver what we were trying to do. Contractual issues, luckily that was mitigated against with the supply and install contract that we've got that's been in place for many years and works well. Staff resources, pretty sure that's going to be a problem for everybody, especially people in local authority. It's definitely a problem for us, and it's even more of a problem after our announcement last Tuesday of a resourcing freeze, freeze on all sorts of, any sort of additional spending. So that's no more staff for my team for now. And then conflict with other schemes. There's quite a lot going on in Kirklees. We can't have too many things going on in one place at the same time. With the money, 6 sites are getting fully refurbished. The controller is getting paid for with the maintenance fund money, and then we're supplying the rest from our other sources of income. So that's just a little before and after of one of the sites that we've done, just a ped crossing near a high school. We've taken out the old controller. I did have a better picture that I should have used that showed just how much of a mess the cabling was inside, but it's much better in the new one. But we've managed to get other benefits in there as well. We've got much better detection. We've got high-level repeaters because it gets really busy there. It's the first crossing you get to when you come out of one of the local high schools. So wherever we can, we're trying to get some benefits as well. 2 of the sites, possibly even more, are going to be partially refurbished. We have a big scheme going along on the A62 in Huddersfield at the minute, the A62 Smart Corridor project. Some of the signal heads that have been taken down from there weren't that old, so we've squirreled them away. Some of these sites, we'll put a new controller in and we'll swap the heads with ones that we've taken that have come down that were otherwise going to be scrapped. 7 sites are complete to date. We've got 5 that are scheduled to be done in early 2023. They're all booked in, they're all ready to go. 4 of them are ongoing. They're going to be booked in pretty soon. We know where they are. We just need to pull his finger out a little bit. And one of them starting on the 21st of November, and that's a picture of the controller that's coming out that some local artist has decided to paint almost in corporate colours, but not quite. Apparently, he's been caught. He's been painting a lot of things, post boxes, all sorts. He thinks they look untidy, so by painting them bright blue, he's making it look better. But he's painted all the cabinets on this job. We weren't swapping all the cabinets, so if we can find him, we might just ask him if he'll come back and paint them black for us. It'd be much more useful. So the results to date, on the sites that we've done, we've now only had 2 all-out faults reported since they've been replaced. One of them was a power fail, so nothing we could do about that. And one of them was reported incorrectly. I don't know if any other local authorities find that the police are the worst for wrongly reporting faults, but we certainly do. All outs and stuck on red. Like, oh, yeah, we'll look into that, of course we will. Yeah, it's all fine. Our site 585K, which is at Marketplace Low Lane in Birstall, which is a little shopping area, shops down both sides, it's just a little ped crossing. But we'd had 5 all-out reports due to controller issues in the previous 12 months, which isn't ideal when it's in a shopping area. So far since March, since it was replaced, we've had nothing reported, so that's good. And we'll hopefully be repeated at our other sites as well. I'm almost done. We're on track to complete by March 2023. We've spent £130,000 roughly to date. We've got another 72,000 committed, another 21,000 estimated, just not quite out of the door yet. So that's getting us to 223,000. Bit more staff time, contingencies, bits that happen, maybe even just sneak another quick scheme in. We'll just have to see how it goes. So we should be done and be spent up. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much, Louise. That's action in action. Now, does anybody have any questions? Maybe you weren't prepared for questions, I don't know, but there's a lot of information in there. But was there anything just quickly, because I don't want to kind of close it down. Inevitably, somebody right at the back. Should have seen that coming, shouldn't we? Louise, do you want to step up to the podium?
It's great to listen to. I work for Gary McDonald, work for WSP, but pretty much full time on the Wokingham Borough Council contract with the signals. I was wondering why you decided to basically go your own with a kind of AI program and didn't decide to use something like Stratos and the modules and then the kind of strategy manager or the kind of DINIC equivalent, just out of interest. Is there any differences or benefits?
In all honesty, it was all sorted out by my predecessor. I've only been in post about 12 months, so I've just inherited a lot of this but we're really enjoying having a collaboration with our local university and a local business. So for us it's working well. But I must admit, I've not had much impact into that.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. The question's actually related to the guy that painted your cabinets. It's a really interesting question that actually perked me up a little bit in terms of, do you feel things like that actually have a place in terms of future traffic maintenance and management, in the sense that it reduces vandalism, it blends it into the public realm? It'd be interesting just to hear your instinctual views on this. Thanks.
I know in Hull they've painted a lot of their cabinets and got really cool artwork on them. It's something that I would love to do because I think it makes them interesting. And why should we hide them away? They're there, they're doing an important job. I would like, maybe not just the way that he painted it, but sort of with nice artwork on. I think there's a time and a place. I'd quite like, we've got a few outside schools, I'd quite like to have sort of a little competition or get like school kids' pictures put on it. I just think it'd be quite nice. We've also got some as well that someone's painted silver.
Can people not ask questions at opposite sides of the room? There must be a more efficient way of doing this.
Hello, I'm Lyndon from Renborough Council. I had a question about the Bluetooth equipment you've listed. Are you still maintaining that?
Yes.
And you're still getting the same results as you were when it first went in?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we use it a lot. It's been really useful. It's been really handy this week for me to bat something back at one of our local councillors who's been complaining about a particular junction. And I could just send him some plots and go, that's why you were held up. It was really sad, actually. He got stuck unknowingly behind a very large funeral procession, but was trying to blame us. And I was like, look, there it was. There's your little peak at 12:30. That's what it was, on your way.
And is that linked into Stratos, or is it linked into CT traffic, or how do you get the data back?
Traffic.
It's in CT traffic, okay. On the painting side, we've actually got a few done around history. So by St Mary's Butts, we've got the controller painted with a target on it, and the CCTV column has got an archer pointing at, cool. at the cabinet itself, and that was all done through the colleges.
Right.
So, yeah.
I might want to have a chat with you then about how you kind of got it sorted and got it done.
Hello, it's Gafford then from Warwickshire County Council. You'll be pleased to know, Louise, is not a question for you, but really as another authority who was successful in getting the grant from DFT, that was really, thank you for that, and has been put to good use. We will be completing the programme together and providing the data, but that funding has really provided benefits because some of our historical traffic signal junctions didn't include pedestrian facilities and things like that. So we were able to provide those at traffic signal junctions because the funding that is currently provided by the local authority, because it's a small amount, we tackled pedestrian crossings, not traffic signal junctions, because they were high expenditure.
Yeah.
With this, the funding that we were lucky enough to get £500,000, that we were able to upgrade 3 traffic signal junctions. So really, it's just a thanks to DFT for providing that funding.
Yes, likewise. And Darren will be pleased to know I have been updating the programme tracker, but I haven't sent you the report.
Yeah, I know you have, but I also know who hasn't as well. So.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Louise, again. Just on that, I mean, one of the most important things to say about all of this is that this is all the evidence that we are going to need to pull together. TTF is the perfect place to do that, pull it all together, because then we can play that back into the department. Because when you say thanks to the DFT, a small number of people here had a hand in making this happen, but we have the same internal lobbying to do, because it struck me that when Louise was showing us a picture of how decrepit the inside of the controller was, it makes me wonder if all of these controllers had glass fronts, perhaps people might be more likely to think that they need investment, because when they're tucked away in a box, you can't tell, whereas a pothole is a pothole and everyone can see it. So part of our challenge is, in a sense, opening the doors up and saying, this is what we've got. It's not great, is it? This is what it could look like. So I think we're coming into the most important point now, where we're getting into the kind of home straight in terms of real data and evidence to support what we've done and try and make the case again. So, right, it falls to me to wrap up. We're probably all checking on Google Maps to see how far Piccadilly is. It's probably further than you thought, so I won't hang about. So I'll just run through a few things just to sort of summarise the day briefly, and a few other kind of parish notices. So, number one, the feedback forms, the little forms about the working groups, please do offer any feedback on those and hand them in, leave them on the tables or whatever, but please do try and do it while you're in the moment and the thoughts are occurring to you, because I'm pretty sure by the time you get home, other things will get in the way. I was just going to mention briefly one thing, because it was touched on a couple of times, which is kind of looking a little bit sort of out to other things that the department is doing in the kind of traffic management space. Just out of interest, how many people know what the network management duty statutory guidance is? Oh, not that many. So I'm suspecting, my next question was going to be, so how many of you know that we're rewriting it because it was produced several years ago? Again, a smattering. So we might just share some information about that, because for people who are interested in what the world is meant to look like according to the department, in terms of guidance that we put out to local authorities to help them make sense of their network management duty, which is the statutory duty on every local traffic authority to achieve the impossible balance of making networks flow for everybody. It's probably useful that you know we're doing that, because that's kind of a pretty fundamental part of the world from the kind of policymakers' point of view. So maybe we'll just kind of put some information out through TTF on the website, just so you're kind of aware that we're doing that and what it is, just in case it's of interest. That's the sort of broader point. So coming back to the content of today, it's fantastic as ever that we've had a good turnout, because that's always reassuring to us. I think it was really interesting to get a couple of other perspectives so that we're not too inward looking. So John's presentation about Ertico, I say this a lot whenever anybody asks me, that all the things we're doing in here, everyone else is doing. So this is definitely, there's a bit of a space race going on. But also the challenges in cities all around Europe are all the same, really. So it's really important that we understand that, we learn from it. I'm sure many people in this room are plugged into those sorts of networks, but courtesy of having, one of our own, John Paddington, at Ertico, we have a means of getting the most out of that. DFT is a member of Ertico, so we can help as well. So let's make the most of that. I also really enjoyed. I'm going to call you Jonathan, because I always call you Jonathan. Are you Jonathan? John, sorry. I should have got that straight first, shouldn't I? That was a really interesting presentation, again, about trying to crystallise what some of this difficult stuff is and feed it into where the strategic policy questions are, because otherwise, kind of what's the point? It's all very good, but when we can show that story that is delivering technology, helping deliver what the nation needs and what the government is asking you to deliver, then it's a really important bit of context. And then finally, Vernon's presentation about a real-life case study of a city trying to transform itself using technology, amongst other things, but also doing it in the context of a place that has got its own history, its own baggage, its own difficulties. Very the bus franchising thing. Well, I'll just come back to, because that has been resisted fiercely for years and years and years. So they really are, and they're trying to deal with that. They're trying to introduce active travel in a place that is quite car-led. And we heard from Chris Boardman back in the spring about the challenges he's faced doing that in Manchester, and he's now doing on the national stage. So those perspectives, I think, are really helpful, because they provide the kind of canvas on which we're all painting our paintings. Obviously, it was really good. This is TTF. It's a TTF event. So hearing from the working groups, I think if I was going to score them, I'd give them a 9.5 out of 10. There's always room for improvement. I think when TTF first started, it was a little bit stuttering and a little bit slow, and the outputs took a while to get together. It really seems to be coming together now, and the outputs are really crunchy, and the fact that we're having to stop people talking about them because there's too much is a good problem to have. So let's keep that to be the case. We also, because it did slightly pass me by, because I think I blinked, we did actually launch an important contribution to the whole world of EV charge point rollout today in the guidance document that the TTF has put together and published. So I think we should just sort of pause just for a moment to recognise we've done that. We have colleagues in the department who are working on similar guidance and strategies. It's difficult and it takes time, but actually TTF has got slightly ahead of the curve there, which again is a big tick for us. One of my takeaways from today has been, and it's a bit of a kind of recurring theme, is the fact that there's the work of the TTF. That's what the working groups talked about. That's what LCRIG is there and designed to do, running events, sharing, using the website. So we're very good at doing the work. We're very good at sharing. I think there is this wider perspective point is something that I think we do need to just kind of keep an eye on, because I'm very wary as a non-technologist that I need to be going and selling this to people. The Traffic Signals Maintenance Fund is a really good case in point. That was not an easy sell internally, and it should be. It should be really obvious, and I think we'd all vote for it and say, yeah, of course you should do that. Of course you should spend money on optimising the traffic signals you have in this country. But it wasn't an easy sell. So I think we do the work, tick. We do a lot of sharing and through the website and events. We're doing a lot of kind of comparing notes and knowing what each other is doing and learning more and more about that, tick. I think for me the sort of slight question mark is how much more we can do in the kind of broadcast mode of getting out there and telling people who don't know us, who don't know about this stuff. I counted a few times today when people made a comment about something they'd learned or a simple fact that is probably of no surprise to anybody here, but I thought, ooh, I didn't know that. There were a couple of interesting questions about how many signalised junctions have we got. Why don't we know that? Is that so hard? So there's some learning for ourselves, but I think there's definitely a kind of a comms angle here. We have Paul Hutton sitting there as our kind of professional communicator. He can do an awful lot, but there's only one of him. So I think we can all help Paul to be to kind of broadcast more of what we do. That's it. I'm going to say one more thing, which is a big thank you. Because we've all got lots of different things out of this, the networking, while we were waiting for the chips to be delivered, is probably one of the most important things we get out of this. But none of this happens accidentally, and I know it's a cliche, but it's really important that we never forget that a huge amount of work went into the planning and structure of the day, the content, the speakers, the presentations, great work from the IT people. I know you had some technical problems, but we overcame them. That's the most important thing. That's what I remember, not the fact it happened. A massive thanks to Jill, as ever. So I'm just going to pause because we have to clap at this point. It's required. But Jill doesn't do this on her own. Jill and the LCRIG team, and I wanted just to kind of make sure that we remember the wider team as well, because everybody at LCRIG, and they're now wearing special jackets, so we all know who they are. So I think a wider round of applause for everybody involved today. So thank you very much. And we're going to do it again. This is only our kind of our mid-year conference. This is the small one. The big annual conference happened in May. The next one happens next May. Details will follow in due course. If you haven't booked already, I would suggest you start thinking about it. I really hope to see you then. Hopefully we'll see as many, if not more people. Do we even know where's it going to be? Remind me. To be revealed. To be revealed. How exciting. Where could it be, I wonder? Aha. Okay. Finsbury Park. That's where I want it to be. Right, okay. Well, a big thank you for taking part. I'll finish with a few minutes to spare so you can have that last little bit of networking before we all run for the trains or your cars. So, thank you and see you again.